What's up everybody, my name is Kyle Lemon. Welcome back to another YouTube video, and today we're going to be discussing the top 5 survival-based starter farms. Now as you can see behind me, I have done quite a bit of farms for survival Minecraft, so today I'm going to be rating the top 5 for a starter base. Now basically what that means is, it's not going to be the best farms of all time, so we're not going to include like a nether piglin gold farm, we're not going to include a massive like sugarcane monstrosity tower. We're not gonna, they're gonna be simple farms that you guys can build in your survival world right when you start out, pretty much. So without further ado, let's get started. What do you think? Yeah? Okay. He says we should get started too. Now, before I get started, I do want to mention every single farm I'm going to be naming in this video, I already have a tutorial done on it, and the cards will be linked on the screen as soon as I start talking about the farm. So if you're curious about building that farm, go ahead and click on the card on the screen at the time, or if you want to just wait till the end, you can click on my entire Minecraft tutorials playlist. Starting off with number 5, we have the Stone/Cobblestone Generator. Now, believe me, I know cobblestone generators are a dime a dozen, but I think they're really important for a starter base, especially because if you are somewhere like an island, or maybe like a desert, or God forbid, an ice mountain biome. Dear Lord, I hate those things. Anywhere where stone isn't found a lot, a stone cobblestone generator would be the perfect thing to have in your base, especially whenever you need a little bit extra building blocks, or if you're going into the nether, you need to bring a stack of blocks, and you just don't have any blocks, so you go ahead, spend 20 minutes mining some cobblestone, and you should be good. Honestly, I think this is like a 5-minute build that you can build. It's really simple, and it's really easy to build. Up next is number 4. We got our big boy over here, our mob grinder farm / XP farm. Now, I debated putting this at 3 instead of 4, but I don't think this is necessarily the most important thing for your base. In fact, this is probably the farm out of all 5 farms that you could probably build last. The reason this isn't number 5 is because it's an XP farm. And XP farms, as you guys might know, are incredibly important for getting enchantments. Now, I will say this up here is only 2 tiers. You can build it much higher, much bigger if you wanted to. This one seems to be okay for a starter base. I would recommend about 2 or 3 tiers for the starter base. As you can see, there's a decent amount of enemies down here. Just look at all that experience that's flowing out. Now, it's not the best experience farm. It certainly is no Enderman XP farm. But for a starter base, this is probably the best XP farm you're going to get. And on top of that, it's going to get you a decent amount of arrows and bones and gunpowder. Now, those 3 are pretty important. Arrows are important, especially if you're using bows. Bones are important for farms or for building blocks. You can make bone blocks. And gunpowder especially will be important once we get an elytra. We can use that to make fireworks and fly around. Which brings me to good old number 3. This is a sugarcane farm, automatic sugarcane farm. And once you get all your gunpowder from your mob grinder farm, you can come over here and get all your paper from this farm. Now, those are the 2 ingredients you really need to make fireworks for your elytra. Paper is going to be really important for a starter base because it's going to be how you get your books and your bookshelves to build your enchantment table. On top of that, once you get villagers, you can trade paper for emeralds as well. It's a good trade. So building one of these in your base is probably a good idea to have as one of your first priorities. Since it is a pretty slow farm, if you build it first, if you build it as one of your first farms, you can definitely have it sitting kind of be AFK around it or just be doing other stuff around it. And it'll just keep running, pushing out sugarcane, which you can turn into paper. And it is slow. You can make it longer than this, of course. But I think it's still a good contender for number 3. And number 2 on the list is going to be our automatic pumpkin and melon farm. Now, this is probably the most expensive farm out of all the farms that I've got here. But I think it's also pretty worth it. Again, you can trade pumpkins and melons with farmer villagers to get you a decent amount of emeralds. Melons are also really good for potions. When you combine them with gold, you get glistening melons, and you can make a bunch of potions with that. Now, this farm you don't have to build right away in your starter base. In fact, this farm is probably better once you have villagers. since pretty much what this farm does is just get you pumpkin and melons, and really the only use for those are selling it to villagers. But I find once you stock up on pumpkins and melons from this farm, it will get you a lot of emeralds, which of course is very important for getting your stuff enchanted and getting your things all set up for your starter base. And guys, of course, before we get to number 1 out of all these farms, we need to do some honorable mentions. Honorable mention number 1, we got our semi-automatic Netherwart farm. Now this is a tiny little farm, super inexpensive to build, and it's not technically on the list because I don't know if Netherwart is necessarily the highest priority thing that we need to get for a starter base, but it is certainly useful for potions. And so if you have a little tiny farm like this where you can just kind of mine the Netherwart here, that's going to be great. And then all that Netherwart will go down into here and you can just replant it. And honorable mention number 2, of course, we got our buddy over here, our automatic wool farm. Yes, that's right, Ben. You're honorable mention number 2. You didn't make it on the list because you suck. Yep, sorry. Anyway, as you can see, that works pretty well. That just got us 3 wool here. Now, it is not a very efficient farm. I would definitely recommend building it around grass if you have to, or building like 6, 7, 8, 9, 20 of them. It's super inexpensive, so it's not going to be a huge problem to build that many. And it's an honorable mention because after you make a bed, you're not going to really need wool that much, but it is nice to have around if you want to do some decorating, make some carpets, if you need extra beds, or if you're one of those people that kills the Ender Dragon with beds, then you're definitely going to want a wool farm. And guys, before we get to number 1, don't forget to subscribe for future videos, follow all my socials in the description, and stay tuned for the next video. So, finally, number 1 is our semi-automatic farm. Now this is a tiny bit more expensive than some of the farms I just showed. However, I think this is an incredibly important farm for a starter base, because where you could just have a normal wheat, potato, carrot, beet farm, whatever, this is actually a lot more streamlined to fit into a base. So you could just kind of put this in an alcove, especially if you have like a mountain base or an underground base. This fits great into one of those little side rooms. You could just shove it in. And the best part about this is you don't even have to pick any of this up. You just go ahead, hit this. You can see all those coming down towards us. That's beautiful. Turn off the water. Now, it's true you will have to pick up the excess kind of stuff. That's okay because you're going to need to go around this farm again and kind of just refill it anyway. But this farm is huge for our starter food. As you know, food in a starter base is just as good as diamonds, pretty much, because and when you start a world, unless you get really lucky, it's going to be really hard to keep a good stack of food. So I would recommend making one of these for wheat or potatoes. Potatoes, honestly, is probably the best in my opinion, just because you can bake potatoes and they'll give you 2.5 hearts for each food. I think baked potatoes are probably the best starter food you could get, and this farm is the best starter farm you could get for potatoes. On top of that, if you have 4 of these farms, you can get all 4 farms of wheat, potatoes, beet, and carrots and sell them to farmers, as well as your pumpkin and melon farm. If you have the pumpkin and melon farm and this farm right next to each other with a couple farmer villagers, you are going to be rich in no time. Anyway, guys, that's it for me for this video. I hope this helped you choose some farms for your starter world. And if you guys disagreed with me on any of these, please let me know in the comments. We can have a lively discussion about it. Otherwise, guys, that's going to be it for me today. I will see you in the next video, which is going to be on Wednesday. So subscribe for that. Otherwise, see y'all later. Bye!